So just say if he, for example, if Nathan hasn't really got back into the Brentford team, I'd have no problem seeing John going in there and slotting into the middle three at the back.
Did you know when you were coming through the ranks with Declan that he was eventually going to move to England, or were you thinking, oh, this is going to be an Irish player for years to come?
I would have been thinking the latter, like you said there. I was definitely thinking Irish player for years to come.
Will Ireland be at the World Cup in the summer?
With the performances I've seen off the last 2-3 games, yeah, I think they can. I think they'll have enough.
Welcome back to Inside the Boys in Green. I'm your host, Graham O'Toole. And of course, this week we are joined by Irish football expert Paul Nealon, fresh from his trip to the Hill Dickinson on Monday night. There was 2 Irish players in attendance, but no minutes on the pitch. Jake O'Brien suspended, was he?
Yeah, he was pitch side though.
And you got a little video I saw on your Instagram of Seamus warming up, but no minutes for Seamus.
Yeah, it wasn't really the game to bring him on. He obviously got injured against Man United last time out after 11 minutes. You know, they are pacey on the break. So I think if Seamus does get any minutes between now and March, it's going to be against a team that probably aren't as quick on the wings. Maybe like Burnley next Tuesday could be a game that he maybe comes in for. We've got Newcastle away at the weekend. I don't see him playing in that one either. So, yeah, it's a bit of a shame. I think Jack Moorhouse as well as Irish eligible was on the bench for Man United as well, youngsters. So there was actually 3 in attendance if you class it that way. But unfortunately not minutes, but I did see Jake pitch side before the game.
And we're delighted to be joined by former Republic of Ireland midfielder Alan Judge. Alan, welcome to Inside the Boys in Green. How are you feeling 4 weeks out from the big game against Czechia? You feeling confident?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be great. Big game for the lads, ones that they want to play in, and I'm really looking forward to it, and hopefully the squad looks nice and healthy.
Well, one player that could be making a late dash to get into that squad and potentially the starting 11 is Alex Murphy, who made his Champions League debut for Newcastle against Qarabag last night. From Galway to Newcastle in the Champions League. Alan, do you think he can force his way into the starting 11 between now and then, or is it coming too early for him?
Well, you just have to wait and see, really. He played last night. He played really well. I seen his interview after the game. He couldn't even, his mum and dad couldn't even get flown over because he got told that late. Look, there's a few games for him between now and when the playoff is on. Centre midfield wise as well, obviously Josh Cullen's been injured. So places are there, to take. So if he's playing Premier League football, Champions League football, why not be able to play for us in the playoff if he's going well?
Most important thing last night was his barber was in attendance. He told Gabby Logan at the end. Paul, what do you make of his performance last night?
Yeah, look, I think it's very good. I think Qarabag's maybe a tough one to kind of look at. The tie was essentially over, but I think it was 9-3 on aggregate in the end. The whole score, they won 3-2 on the night, but some of the scores, like Tonali scored and Joe Linton, so he was playing and he is mingling with Premier League players and training every single day, and Eddie Howe's looking at him close up and he trusts them enough to give him minutes. So as Alan said there, I think if he it's still I think it's just 4 weeks away now.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of football to be played between now and then. And if he does get in and establish himself, we've seen it before. Aaron Connolly broke on the scene against Brighton. I think Alan would have been in that squad with Mick McCarthy. And, he came in and he was like, okay, he's Premier League ready all of a sudden after playing 2 weeks before the 21s. So football can change quickly. And look, we're probably looking for someone on that left-hand side anyway. And if he has experienced players around him, there's no reason why he can't come into that squad,
Yeah, exciting times for Alex Murphy. Unfortunately, some bad news up top for Ireland as Gavin Cooney of the 42.ie reporting that Ferguson is going to be out of the playoff with a recurring ankle injury. Alan, where does that leave us now with our attacking options? Obviously, if Troy stays fit, he's going to be our main man up top. But who are we putting in and around him if everybody else is staying fit and Ferguson seems like he's out?
Well, obviously, I think everybody knows Troy would have been playing. And I don't mean this in a bad way. I think even if Ferguson was fit, I think Troy would have been playing anyway. So who comes behind Troy? Well, Sammy played last night. Sammy Smodix played last night for Derby. He got a goal. He's got 290 minutes under his belt. I think he'll be ready and able when it comes to 4 weeks' time. Just obviously depending on form. We know how much how good he's been for Ireland when he's played. He's just been unlucky with injuries. Obviously, Chio's been in and out at Sheffield, but I do still envision him playing even if he hasn't had minutes. So they're the two I'd probably kind of be looking at, and then you have obviously Mickey Johnson, etc. So there's a few options there, and you've got Adam Ida as well. So I would imagine he was kind of informed, but I would say Chio would still be involved in the lineup even if he hasn't had minutes.
Do you agree, Paul?
Yeah, well, I think something that goes under the radar is Troy got all the plaudits against Hungary and Portugal, but Chio was huge in those games, and he won the penalty to get us back in the game pretty much straight away against Hungary away. He won that penalty that Troy scored. I don't think people kind of recognise the job that he did for the team, and he's always done a job for the team wherever he's put. I remember he played against France and he had to double up with Seamus on the right wing with Mbappe, and he done that like brilliantly, and he'll do a job anywhere for Ireland. I think he's the perfect kind of team player for us to have. He's not selfish in any way, and he has that, like, obviously with the pace, but he also has the power, and he's a handful for any defender that I've ever seen. So I'd like to see that. In regards to Sammy Smodix, yeah, I think he's second in command now. I think he's the only other striker fit. I know people have this thing about this injury. Whenever international break comes around with injuries, people were trying to say the same thing about Evan Ferguson in the last international window, because he was back training after Troy scored the goals, as if he wants to miss the thing. So I think this whole injury thing gets blown out of proportion. I'm hoping he'll be fitting and ready. And look, he's playing under a manager who he knows very well, and John Eustace, who got the best out of him at Blackburn. So hopefully he, again, 4 weeks, if he can keep scoring and kind of get back to that form at Blackburn, and then be in the Ireland squad, and with two strikers who are scoring. Yeah. Please God.
It's just terribly unlucky for Evan Ferguson. He can't seem to catch a break. I've got Gasparini's quotes here after he found out he was injured. Let me just pop them up here. He said, last year, he was sidelined for a year due to ankle surgery. So this guy's biggest challenge are out of this nature. We're trying to get him back on his feet, but every time he changes direction, he risks a small sprain. He has one on each side, but the one he had surgery on didn't completely resolve the problem. We're all working hard to get him back on track, but it's not easy for him either. He goes from moments of happiness to moments of intense discontent and depression. Each time it takes weeks. The last time, if I'm not mistaken, he hurt himself on a dive to avoid a photographer. Whenever he's been available, he's always been used, but that's his problem. In fact, this year has gone better than last year when he practically never played. Alan, did you ever get a mad injury trying to dive avoiding a photographer or anything like that?
No. And I think you all know I've been unlucky with injuries, but I've never had anything like that. It just seems unlucky for this year. It just seems to be one thing after another for him. When he does get himself fit, he's proven he's scoring goals. It just need him kind of just to like catch a break. That's what it is. And hopefully, I think many people would have said this will be the last one, and hopefully he can finish off the season well. And, you know, if he misses out on us in 4 weeks' time, okay, but then hopefully finish the season well on a personal note for himself.
When it comes to injuries, Alan, you said there that you've received a few yourself. We all remember that leg break around the Euros as well. Like, any advice for someone who has an injury this long occurring to fully recover? Is it just worth staying out of the game as long as you can until you are 100% that injury is gone?
It's tough, because I would imagine on Evan, when he's fit, they're playing him. So I imagine they're probably thinking, let's get him back. Even if he's 70, 80% fit, we're going to use him. He's going to play. But he could be doing himself damage in the long run. So I would imagine my tip for Evan was, if he could get through the rest of the season, then have a complete break, reset in the summer, get himself going again. He's just been unlucky. He's a young lad who's played a lot of football, and this happens. He's not as if he's a centre forward who doesn't get involved in the play. He takes a lot of hits as well. So they do take tolls. And as I said, he's quite young.
Paul, you spoke about Ogbene there and how he is going to be a big player come the Czechia game, but he's not getting a lot of minutes for Sheffield United. He's on loan from Ipswich, but only played 29 minutes since the Hungary win. Is there a big risk playing Ogbene in that crucial game, since he's only played just a few minutes for Sheffield United? In fact, he's been left out of the last two matchday squads.
I'll be interested to know why, because I know he came back a few weeks back and scored. So I know in that 29 minutes he scored anyway since that game in Hungary. He did. So I don't know why he's not getting in the team. It's a strange one.
Well, it came out this week that there are EFL rules that a club can make unlimited loan signings, but only 5 can appear in any matchday squad, and they've got 6. And he seems to be the 6th, meaning he can't get in the squad. So maybe that is a rule that is hampering him getting into the team.
I didn't know that. Maybe you're the expert, not me. So, but I think that's frustrating for him, because obviously, the idea was for him to go from Ipswich was to play games. That was the only reason why he left Ipswich. He wouldn't have left them otherwise. I think he spoke with Kieran McKenna, and he was saying that he wanted to get game time, and you would have thought Sheffield United. He was playing obviously before the injuries and stuff like that, and maybe in January they thought they wanted to get more players in. But I do know he scored. I just don't know how fit he is.
Yeah.
Because he's only played a couple of minutes or whatever. I always find, and Alan will know this a lot more than me because I'm not a professional footballer, but whenever you're playing matches or whatever, it takes you probably about 3 games to get up to speed. I think at that level he hasn't. But then you look at Seamus Coleman against Hungary and Portugal, he had no minutes and he was unbelievable. But I know it's a different position. It's not as relentless as playing up front or whatever. But I think you probably could end up seeing a Troy Parrott, Sammy Smoddock's front too.
Yeah.
Probably.
Any advice for Ogbene, Alan? He's struggled with injuries himself, especially since he did his Achilles there with Ipswich in the Premier League. Advice, for a player on loan as well. I know you had a few loan spells yourself in your career.
The thing is, so obviously I know Chio well. I was with him at Brentford. When he came through, he signed at Brentford. So I know what Chio's like as a lad. He's never unhappy. He's always walking around with a smile on his face, etc. But it could get to him a little bit because, as Paul said, he left Ipswich to get minutes coming back from his Achilles injury. It's pretty much the same as what Sammy's doing, going from Ipswich to Derby. He's making sure he's getting fit. So this is just a different, I would say, mental side of the game for Chio that he has to kind of get over. Knowing Chio like I do, I think he'll be as fit as a fiddle, making sure he's ready, doing what he can do to be ready for the team coming 4 weeks. For at the moment, obviously I knew about the rule, about the 5 loan signs, and for a loan player to be obviously going on loan and then getting told you're not in the matchday squad, well, he's probably thinking, well, that's why I'm here to play. He's just got to, keep his head down, get on with what he can do at the moment, look after himself, make sure he's as fit as he can. He'll have his eyes on the game for Ireland, I would imagine. And then again, it might be a case for him, get through the end of the season, reset and go from there.
For loan players, Alan, do you find in your career when you're out on loan, you got treated any differently by the manager to players that were permanently signed to that club?
I've been quite lucky. When I've had my loan deals, I've been okay, but I have seen it in front where if there's nothing to play for the seasons, and depending on what's in the contract of the player being signed, if there's a penalty on a player playing, etc., sometimes a manager might not play that loan player if that means the club doesn't have to pay anything towards his wages, etc. That'd be lower down the leagues, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
But generally, when I've played with loan players and been a loan player, I've never really seen a loan player not give his full 100% like a player that's a permanent player there, because ideally it's your reputation. And people can see that if you're trying and if you're not. So it wouldn't do yourself any good if you're out there not putting yourself about 100%.
Alan, were you on loan at Ipswich? Were you at Ipswich when Troy was on loan there?
Yeah. So I was with Troy, and I'm very fond of Troy, and Troy knew that when he was here. Troy is honestly, he's so suited to European football. That's what he is. When we had him at Ipswich, they were playing him off the left. They were playing as a 10 and number 9, and Troy was, as everybody knows, he does what you ask him to do. He does it, but he's all in the one. He is not your out and out number 9. He's not your number 10 and your out and out left winger. He can do it all. And I think that's why it suited him so well going to European football. I think he can drop in, get involved in the game, and then he can go away from the game for the next few minutes and maybe not touch the ball. But as we can see, he's scoring loads of goals at the minute.
We've asked a couple of our guests this over the last few weeks, Alan. Where do you think he will end up after the summertime? Will he still be in Europe in a different league, or will he be back in England?
I think that's what he will do. Just from what's gone on in the past with him with England, where he mightn't have felt so settled at the moment, I reckon he might do a couple of more years in Europe and then come back. I look like maybe a Germany or something like that would suit him. Different challenge. I think he's done what he can do in Holland. So I would be surprised if I see him come back to England. But, when clubs come in for big money for you trying to buy it, it's very hard to be tempted not to come back and play in the Premier League.
Sammy Smodix, we've already mentioned him going well in his loan move with Derby, but they did lose 4-2 last night to Hull, where John Egan played. Having a bit of a renaissance with Hull at the moment, who are 4th in the Championship. Deserve a spot in the squad?
Yeah, I think he showed his leadership last time in the double header against Portugal and Hungary, although he didn't play. Well, he did play against Portugal, came on a couple of minutes, but in terms of how he is around the squad, him and Seamus, I believe, were huge for for the team. And John Egan and Alan will know this more than me, but he's a great character. He's a very funny guy. You often hear people often have like lots of good things to say about him. Just he's great to have around the camp, and he's a good player.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't know if you saw his goal, but he took it very nicely in the box. Like, he took it on the turn, right foot, finished to the bottom corner like a striker. Kind of reminded me of his goal against Scotland away in Hampden. I was at that game when we wore the orange kit. But look, he between that kind of COVID years, all through that kind of Stephen Kenny era is when John Egan kind of grew into in Irish regular. Probably should have had more caps over the years previously, but he's back in there now. I think he has to be in the squad if he's fit. He's playing, I think, almost 2 games a week now. So he's in great condition. I think if he keeps going the way he's going, he might even have a case to be in the actual 11 on match day if he keeps going the way he's going,
Well, Darragh O'Shea also played for Ipswich last night. Ipswich also fighting for promotion. So we've got a good few defenders at the top of the Championship. Alan, who would be your defensive starters for the game against Czechia?
I think it's hard to look any different to what they set out against Hungary. I think that'll be hard to change. I know Nathan hasn't been playing the last few weeks against for Brentford. Going back to John has never let Ireland down. And if you're going to just take out John being good around the group, John's been playing a lot this year, playing really well, been probably one of the best centre-halves in the league, knowing what John can do. So just say for example, if Nathan hasn't really got back into the Brentford team, I'd have no problem seeing John going in there and slotting into the middle 3 at the back. But I would say stick with what you know. I think they performed well against Hungary. I think that would be quite good. And Darragh's doing really well at Ipswich. Obviously, I get to see a lot of Ipswich because I'm down here. He's took on the mantle pretty well, being captain at Ipswich. It's a lot of pressure at Ipswich at the moment because of the money they've spent. I think he's dealing with it really well. And anytime I've seen Darragh play for Ireland, he usually performs like he does for Ipswich.
Won't be for the next couple of games or the World Cup, but definitely one for the future. James Abankwah is playing for Watford. Paul, what do you know about James?
Yeah, obviously he was on loan. He was on loan to Watford from Udinese, but he went to Udinese from St. Pat's originally, and highly rated. Went over there, similar to Festi, and then he was starting to kind of get a bit of game time. Then I suppose it was a bit of a surprise. He came back to Watford last January, I think it was, and he was brought in as like almost like a marquee signing. And we know Watford and Udinese have kind of the same owners. So that's, I think, the reason why he's there. But yeah, look, he's definitely won. He's been captain at underage level, under 21s and stuff like that. He looks like he's definitely one for the future. I think his problem, if we didn't have so many good centre halves, he'd probably be in the squad. You don't remember one that we didn't mention, but we've been mentioning him over the last couple of weeks, is Omobama Deli, and he seems to be coming back into form now at Strasbourg and playing regularly enough. So that's going to be a headache for Halgrimsson to kind of pick out of the defenders there as well. You got Liam Scales, Nathan Collins, Jake O'Brien, and so on, the names we mentioned. So there's so many players there, and he's probably unlucky that that's the position that he plays. I think he could play right back as well. So yeah, he's definitely one for the future. I'd like to see him maybe take that next step. I think depending on how these games upcoming go, you may see him in those warm-up games maybe in the summer. In that squad, perhaps it might be a chance to kind of give some newer, younger players a chance. He was in the squad as well previously. Just didn't get capped, I don't think. And
just a final look at the Championship from last night. A good night for the two lads for Southampton, 5-0 against QPR, and Finnazaz getting on the score sheet.
Yeah, Ryan Manning actually assisted him for the goal, and Finnazaz got an assist as well later on. He just passed him on the edge of the box and he turned. Actually, it's kind of similar, a little bit further out than John Egan's, but it was a similar type of goal on the turn, right foot finish the bottom corner. Finn is in good form coming into this. I did a kind of a scout report on the Southampton players, and kind of Ryan Manning was actually getting bad reviews off the Southampton, but he scored a late goal last week, an equaliser I think last week, to get them 4-4 against Leicester, and they won 5-4 late on, and then he got an assist this week, and Finn Azaz's got the goal there, so they're doing well. The guy's name's Football Martin, and he was saying he watches them all the time, but Finn Azaz basically a confidence player and a moments player. Now that does make sense and it does check out, because he's not someone you want when you want to have 5 players, 11 men behind the ball. He's probably not the ideal one you want in that scenario, but he is the difference maker. He's the one that played that ball in for Troy against Hungary. He has those moments. He also against Bulgaria, I think he got a goal there. He linked up quite well with Evan Ferguson for a goal at home as well. So he has that composure and something like that. He probably has that different thing from a midfielder that we have. One thing I'm a little bit nervous of, and I'd love to get your opinion on Alan's, is just West Brom. They're struggling massively. Jason Malumbi's playing down there. They just sacked their manager and Mikey Johnson. So I just worry because of our midfield options. Kind of, I'd like to know how Alan's maybe feeling about that.
Yeah, Alan, what do you reckon our midfield will be? We've got Alan Brown, Jason Knight, Jason Malumbi, Jack Taylor. How are them do you think will be starting?
And this is nothing against Jason or Malumbi or etc. But I think Alan Brown's in great form at the moment for Middlesbrough. He was voted in Player of the Month, etc. And then you've got Jack Taylor's playing more or less every week for Ipswich. I know for the boys at West Brom, it's a hard slog for them at the moment, and I do worry for West Brom. When I'm looking at it, I just don't see where the wins are going to come from. I've watched a few of their games lately, and it just doesn't seem to be connecting for them. So if I look at the 2 options in midfield at the moment, I would be going, you'd probably bring Alan Brown in, I'll be honest with you, put him in alongside, if you go with Alan Brown. I'd still probably go with Jason in there. I thought Jason did do well against Hungary, so I'd probably stick them 2 together if I had that option.
You got Jason Knight. I think he's playing quite a bit as well.
Knight, yeah,
he was injured in the last.
To get back in, yeah.
So he probably would have been involved in those games as well. I think he'll actually be a big plus for us to have him back. I think he's probably gone under the radar. But like Alan was saying there, it's worrying for West Brom. They're a massive club, and obviously with Jason Malumbi, I actually thought he had a superb game against Portugal away, and then Portugal at home and Hungary. He was very good in those games as well.
Okay, moving from the Championship, we're going to look towards Scotland and your former Irish manager, Martin O'Neill. Alan, he's back at Celtic. Were you surprised when he went back in earlier on in the season, not the second time round?
No, not really. I think, the club for Martin, what it is, what he's done there, I don't think he could ever send out to that club. And so I wasn't really surprised to see it. And it's great to see him still have the energy that he had when he was the Irish manager. So I just think it's brilliant. And I just wish he didn't have that little 7 or 8 game break and going back in the second time, because I feel like Celtic could be well on top if he had stayed.
Yeah, so as it stands, Hearts are top on 60 points, Rangers second on 56, Celtic third on 54 with a game in hand. But surely if they just kept him in, they'd be running away with it. It's kind of a mixed bag, Paul, for Martin. So since he came back in January, he's had 7 league games, 6 wins, but they lost to Hibs and they lost to Stuttgart last week 4-1 at home, and they had the pre-match crowd throwing the tennis balls onto the pitch. They're not happy with the board. So even though he seems to have steadied the ship, fans don't seem to be still happy with the board up there.
Yeah, well, basically they stopped the Green Brigade coming in, so the Green Brigade would be like the Ultras. That's going on even probably just before I was over for the Roma game. And they were even stopping fan media from doing it, so that's why I actually wasn't able to cover the game. But they actually, there's a big kind of problem.
Stopping fan media going into the stadium.
It was not working at the games.
Why?
Because they don't want fan media asking difficult questions.
Oh.
Yeah, so there's a big kind of thing between the board and the fans at the moment there at Celtic. It's very toxic. So, even Liam Scales vouched for me to do that game. And I had nothing back off the media person till the day before, and they were like, oh yeah, we've just kind of put a ban on fan media for the time being, and it was just ridiculous, to be honest with you. But basically the Green Brigade are the singing section, whatever, and you take that out of Celtic and you take that atmosphere out of there, it sucks the energy. I was at the game against Roma when Evan scored them goals, and it was just, yeah, well, it wasn't good. The atmosphere wasn't good, and you can sense it around Celtic. It's not a good place to be at the moment. And like, Martin is the only kind of positive thing that's happened in recent times. And I think he even called them out on it.
He did. I've got the quotes here after the Stuttgart game. He said, anybody who think that's a good idea needs their heads examining. There's no question about it. It sends out totally the wrong message. We are playing against Stuttgart. The game is hard enough. The problem is, way back some years ago, this was an incredibly intimidating place to come, incredibly difficult. I've managed here when sides like Juventus were scared stiff of coming here, where top-class sides were scared stiff. That sort of thing does not help at all. No, Martin, as you do, Alan, are you surprised he came out with such a strong statement against the fan protest?
Not really, no, Martin. As you said, Celtic need in the ground, they want as much help as possible, don't they? And you want Stuttgart are coming to play them. You want the ground to be as hostile as possible, loud as possible for the team. So I'm not really surprised to see Martin come out and have those comments, I'll be honest.
Liam Scales played full 90. He's actually been playing all the time since Martin O'Neill came back in. How has he been playing in those games, Paul?
Well, he's been good. Like, I don't think the players around him that have been getting sent off is Austin Trusty. Like the Rangers game they played, I'm sure it was him who got sent off last man. But Scales gets the brunt of abuse.
Yeah,
I don't know why he stays at Celtic, if I'm being honest, which is like, if I got that much abuse, Johnny Kenny was the same, he got out. But the two of them, because they're Irish for some reason, or I think it's because Liam came from Shamrock Rovers. That's what I've been hearing from kind of Celtic circles, is that if he didn't come from Shamrock Rovers for €500,000 or whatever it was, I don't think he'd get nowhere near the abuse that he receives, you know. I think he won the double with Celtic last year. I think he's been a big player for them. I think he's really excelled. I think that would show with the 2 assists he got. Portugal Hungary, I know I keep referencing those games, but like he was huge in those games, and he's willing to do a shift at left wing back, left back. I think, look, the whole thing that messed up Celtic's season was bringing in Wilfred Nancy, and it had kept Martin in there. It made total sense to keep him there. Anyone that you speak to would tell you the same, and that again was another thing that divided the board and the fans there. And like, I was there for the game, as I said, against Rome, and Nancy was the manager, and you could just see and just get the feeling that this is just not a good vibe at all at the moment. But yeah, I just think Liam Scales gets the brunt of abuse, and it's just a bit difficult. Actually, Alan, I don't know if you played in that game against Georgia where the Ireland fans threw tennis balls. That might have some reference.
Yeah, is it frustrating? Is it frustrating when the fans do that?
I've been fortunate. I've never had to have that kind of stuff done in any of my games, so I've been pretty lucky. But I would imagine it's hard for players to deal with. Going back to Liam, I'm a bit surprised to hear as well that he gets that much abuse up there in Celtic. And I have him down to play for us next month. I would imagine he'll keep his place playing left wing back for us. You know, he did well, as Paul said, with those 2 assists. So, yeah, and then, you know, we look at Celtic. I feel like Celtic would have been well clear by now and probably top of the league if Martin would have stayed in. I found it strange that people like Paul Tisdale are making decisions on changing managers at that time when it was clear as day, just keep Martin in till the end of the season.
And what was his relationship like with Roy Keane as his assistant in there? Did they obviously worked well together, they got on very well, but did they have different roles when it came to managing the team?
Yeah, of course, Roy would have done most of the coaching. Roy was involved with the coaching. So when we were down training, Roy would always take a bit of coaching, and then Martin would just kind of have a hands-off approach and watch from the side. Then, like in the evening times when we're having dinner or whatever, they'd come up to the floor where we would be staying, and they'd interact with us. They'd be telling stories, etc., from the past. So it was always quite good. The group was always quite together, and I was just, when I came into the group, I'm coming into the group where I was watching Robbie Keane playing in the World Cup in 2002, and I was just like watching him, John O'Shea, coming into that kind of group, Shay Gibb, and I felt like I was in my element when I got there, and it was a real pleasure to be around those players.
You mentioned there your injury before the Euros in 2016. When a player gets a serious injury like that just before a major tournament, how quickly on the pitch, when you realise it's serious, do you start thinking about that tournament that's coming up in the summertime?
You know, people have asked me this quite a lot. You know, initially, and this is first thing of it was my sister's daughter's christening. I had to ring back on that day in the ambulance and let them know that I'd broken my leg, and I was just thinking, oh, I've ruined their day.
Oh.
So that kind of didn't come into my thought until a week or two after, when I spoke to Martin, when he actually came in and visited me. Because I was always under the impression, I'll come back, I'll be ready to go. And not obviously for the Euros, but I'll get back and be fit. As time kind of went on, a few weeks passed, I was realising, I think I'd only made my debut for probably a week, 10 days before that, didn't I? After being in the squad for probably over a year. So I'd waited a long time. I'd kind of felt like I'd bided my time as well. And I kind of felt with the way I was playing, I was going to maybe an outside chance of getting in that squad for 2016. So it was hard to take, because it wasn't just that. I'd agreed, obviously, a move to the Premier League as well. So everything had kind of, click of the fingers, had just been taken away from me. And it takes time to deal with, but people have asked me, how do you deal with it? It's all mentality wise. Do you know what I mean? There is hard days. It's not motivation. It's pure discipline. And if you want to get back, you'll get there. And I'll go ahead to it. I got back into the Irish team. I managed to score against America. If I was done, if that was me done with football, I think I've said this to a few people, I would have finished happily.
What advice would you have for Josh Cullen, being in a situation now, injured before the qualifiers and potentially a big tournament?
Yeah, tough one to take. I think he should just concentrate getting himself back the way he was. Obviously, I've had an ACL as well. The good thing about an ACL injury now these days, you can come back. I've seen here with Wes Byrne at Ipswich. He's come back fitter, stronger, quicker. So looking at that side, this little break, I know it's horrible for Josh to think that he might miss out it. He's going to come back bigger, quicker and stronger, and probably even more powerful. So he's got to think of the positives, don't think of what the negatives, which is hard, because if you start thinking about the negatives, that will send you down a bad way.
And that goal you scored against USA in the Aviva, can you sum up your feeling after scoring that goal? What was the 90th minute? It was near enough to the 90th minute.
90th minute. I think I just came on literally 2 minutes before. I think it was 2 touches. All I could kind of think was, I think I said after the game, it was like hell and back. That's what it was. And if that was me finished with international football, I remember giving an interview after, because I didn't kind of know where I was going to go fitness wise, etc. But I actually managed to kick on a bit more. I would have been happily done. So that was it. That's what it meant to me, really, is that I know I had the Premier League taken away from me, but the main thing was getting back and getting a few more caps for Ireland.
And there was a certain man who was man of the match for Ireland that day, a Mr. Declan Rice. Did you know when you were coming through the ranks with Declan that he was eventually going to move to England, or were you thinking, oh, this is going to be an Irish player for years to come?
I would have been thinking the latter, like you said there. I was definitely thinking Irish players for years to come. Like just the way he was around the group, the way he knew things about the country, etc. So I was surprised as much as anybody when we kind of heard that he'd gone towards England. But it is what it is. Obviously, people would have been in his ear, etc. But it is what it is. I know that I've known Declan. Obviously, I played with him through those games. He's a nice lad, but I wouldn't have seen that coming at that time.
You're playing days for Brentford. Really intrigued by their situation right now, because Keith Andrews went in there at the start of the season. Nobody gave him hope in hell of lasting until Christmas. He is now currently in, I think it's around 7th that Brentford are in, and everybody talks about how well run the club is. You played for them for 5 years. What's it like being on the inside of it, and how well run is it actually?
It's as well run as everybody thinks it is, and that's the honest answer. Even when I speak to the people there now, I go back to do the games. I'm part of some of their ambassador stuff. It is what everybody thinks. It's that well run. Matthew Benham has run it like that since I've been there at the club, even beforehand. I don't think they've sacked the manager in years, if I'm thinking, if that's what it is. Yeah. They're always ready. They're always planned, and believe it or not, their target, which I spoke to a few people through the club this year, on an outside chance is Europe, even with losing Thomas, even with Keith being in charge. But I'm not surprised to see Keith doing what he's doing. Having played with Keith, knowing what he was like as a player, speaking to him, very meticulous in everything he does. I think obviously you know him as well. So I'm not really surprised. And Brentford give you that platform to just go out and perform because everything is literally taken care of and well thought of beforehand.
And what is it about this scouting network that they have? Because every time they seem to lose a massive player, they replace it with another player who's just as good. Like, who on earth thought that they were going to succeed and find these new strikers this season after losing Botwissa and Mbeumo? Like, how are they succeeding so much with their scouting?
I honestly, that has to go down to Phil Giles and the recruitment staff. Matthew Benham's involved in that as well. I don't know if he's really taken a step back on that, but every time we got rid of a player, we always managed to find another player as well to come in and take the mantle. So I just don't understand how they do it, but I think it just shows how good they are. And, you know, it's just hats off to them that they just keep improving every time.
We spoke to Tony Cascarino a couple of weeks ago and he kind of mentioned that, you know, Brighton have been the kind of shiny light when in actual fact Brentford have come along and have done kind of similar. Do you think Brentford don't get maybe as much shine as Brighton do, considering how the climb they've had in the I suppose last 3 or 4 years?
I'd say this openly. I don't think Brentford get the respect that they should do. Every time when you hear someone speak about Brentford in the Premier League, they go, "No disrespect to Brentford, but why are you even saying that? They're a Premier League club. They've been there for the last 4 or 5 years. They're well established. So I think on that side there should be a bit more respect put on Brentford's name. They play well. They challenge well. I just find on that side that, you know, people say this, no disrespect for Brentford. They shouldn't be competing with, okay, Aston Villa, etc. But they are, and they have done for the last 4 or 5 years. So I think that needs to kind of be thrown out the window.
And final question, Alan. Will Ireland be at the World Cup in the summer?
With the performances I've seen off the last 2-3 games, yeah, I think they can. I think they'll have enough. I think the boys will be ready as well. So I'm really looking forward to watching that game in 4 weeks' time.
Fingers crossed.
Love it.
All right, Alan, you filled me with confidence. Fingers crossed we're going to be Czechia and then Denmark or North Macedonia. And hopefully we'll be chatting on the lead up to the World Cup in the coming months as well. Alan Judge, thank you so much for joining us on Inside the Boys and Green. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, lads. Appreciate it.
Okay, right now we're going to have a game of, I don't know, it's over to Luke. Luke, you take it from here.
Well, lads, I've decided to bombard you for the end of episode 5. I was just thinking over the last couple of days, I think it'd be worth putting you to the test, bit of a quiz, pitting the two hosts against each other. So the first game this week is something I've been addicted to over the last couple of weeks with my mates. Football 501.
Okay.
You might have seen it on social media. It's essentially football darts. So I say a category. Today it's going to be Irish appearances in the Premier League, and you have to say a guess, and whatever the amount of appearances gets taken off a tally of 501. But of course, it's in darts terms. You can't go higher than 180. So,
all right.
So you can't be going straight in with a Roy Keane if there's 300 or 400 appearances. That's a no score.
I was like, Shay Given.
A few heavy hitters going to be gone there. Yeah. Okay, so I have the two of you here.
Well, I just want to say first off the bat that all the pressure's on Paul here. He's the football expert, and he just had 2 bananas.
2 bananas and in the Ireland jersey.
Yeah, and he requested we stopped for him to have his 2 bananas. So the pressure's on Paul. So I'm just going to give it my best shot.
Perfect. So Graham, I've put you first.
Oh, damn.
Since you're playing as the underdog here.
I'm going to go with Jeff Hendrick, our first guest on my first guess and our first guest.
So Jeff Hendrick, 147 points, brings you down to 334 or 354, I should say.
Hey, that's
a good one.
We're going to probably go someone of the same era. Shane Duffy.
Good shout. Shane Duffy, 119. You're down to 382.
That's good.
I'm going to go with James McLean.
James McLean, 158. Graham, playing the underdog here.
On fire.
Ooh, Josh Cullen.
Josh Cullen, 46 only.
Bad show. He had more.
I'm going to go with Gary Kelly.
It might be alright because of the Premier League appearance.
3, 2, 5. Yeah, it's a
Bust.
stinker.
Stephen Ward.
Quite a lot of awards that have played in the Premier League. I'm trying to find them here.
Burnley.
Stephen Ward. Great shout. 171, Paul. You're down to 165. Graham, still on 196 after you went bust.
Clinton Morrison.
I have my one.
Clinton Morrison. 87. Down to 109. You're on a finish.
Matt Holland.
Matt Holland. 202. Bust.
So what are we on?
So you need 109.
What's Paul on?
165.
109. I'm going to go with... Oh no. I'm blanking. I'm going to go with... I'm just going to play it safe. Darragh O'Shea.
Darragh O'Shea.
He'd be low. He'd be under 100, I'd say.
96. That's a great shout. You only have 13 left.
That's harder though. That's hard.
Yeah.
Matt Doherty. Oh, please be under 160.
Oh, 188. Oh, Paul. All right, Graham. So you've 13.
And what am I plus or minus what?
I think you have up to minus 10. So give or take 20 should seal the deal for you.
Connor Salmon.
He'd have like 2.
Yeah, actually at 32. So you're both.
Can I go Stephen Ireland? Please be under 165. Jesus.
Stephen Ireland.
Actually, he'd probably have more.
2, 4, 5.
So how many busts do I get before I'm out?
Jesus, as many as you want, I think.
Okay.
Here.
Okay,
Yeah.
I've got it.
Okay.
Ogbene.
All right.
This could be bang on. Chiedozie Ogbene. Graham O'Toole. 35, I suppose.
So I'm 165, yeah?
You're 165, yeah.
Oh, come on. Who would be Conor Howrahan? He won't be over 100 anyway.
31. Down to 134. It's coming down the right way, Paul.
I think I might have to go that way there. Right?
Smodics.
Oh, I wouldn't say
Danny
he is.
Smodics. 20. Graham has checked out. But Paul has one more turn.
But here,
You have to beat minus 7. So you're on 134. So if you get 140, you win.
Yeah.
Just think Glenn Whelan, but there's no way he'd be above that.
I want to see what those bananas are going to do.
Trying to think of a keeper. Mark Travers wouldn't have that. Ah, man. This is difficult. There's just not been so many Premier League
If you
players.
don't get this right, I have to take Irish football expert
Out of the
out
intro.
of this
That's great.
whole language of this podcast.
Evan Ferguson.
Evan Ferguson. 68. And Graham wins. Irish footballing expert.
Graham O'Toole. Who would have thunk it? All thoughts? Should he have 3 bananas, or was it too many bananas?
I thought you should have been out after the Declan Rice show.
I just got confused. I got confused near the end. I went Irish caps as opposed to Premier League
Snapping now, but
appearances.
there's just so little pool to choose from. That was in that category.
I thought the pool was absolutely fine.
Yeah,
the pool was
you
fine
were
for me.
thriving.
Luke, thanks for that.
Thank
Love
you.
that.
Pleasure.
Love that.
Be back next week. Another game. Hopefully, Paul can make a bit of a
I'll
comeback.
make up for it.
Yeah, and we'll see you next week for episode 6 of Inside the Boys in Green with Irish football expert Graham O'Toole and just Paul Nealon.
We'll let you have it.